Hello, I'm Greg Harrison with USDA Market News Service here in St. Joe, Missouri with your National Feeder Cattle Summary. Feeder cattle this week traded very uneven. Prices on some yearlings, first part of the week, early part of the week, trading unevenly steady to 5 lower. Then at midweek, prices firmed up somewhat, trading unevenly steady to $5 higher. The calf market this week is pretty much all over the board. It's very uneven as the month of October pretty much showing some pressure on these new crop unweaned calves, which is typical for this time of the year. Market pressure on these new crop weaned calves, a lot of times the supplies of these outweigh the demand, and there's some instances on these lightweight calves weighing under 450 pounds that traded $10 to $15 lower this week, as prices on these lightweight calves under 450 pounds have been very lofty. And calves went from 450 to 650 pounds, traded in a very wide price range this week with wide price trends in all trading areas, ranging from unevenly steady to $5 lower to $5 higher, and we've had places where they're 8 to 10 higher to 8 to 10 lower. Southeast regions, same way, mostly unevenly steady to $5 lower. And there's several auctions this week which also noted a lighter presence of farmer feeders that have been buying cattle. A lot of that's due to the harvest getting back in the full swing this week. We've had a lot of muddy conditions and rain to the week prior. And so a lot of these farmers getting back in the field and with harvest at a slower pace. On Tuesday, USDA reported that 31% of the corn has been harvested, and that's behind the 5-year average of 53%. And soybeans are 53% harvested with the 5-year average of 66%. So farmers getting back in the field this week, had a good week to run in, so hopefully they'll get caught up with their harvest. And looking at some of these unweaned calves, they get scrutinized a lot more than the long-time weaned calves when you see additional discounts on them due to fleshy conditions and or even having a snotty nose. Most cattle buyers and cattle feeders would love to buy cattle and fill orders with calves that are 45 days weaned and have an extensive vaccination and precondition program behind them. But we're seeing many calves right now being sold right off the cow, and in a lot of cases, a lot of these calves coming off the cow do have a vaccination program behind them. But then you have a lot of them too that have little use of knives or needles, and you're seeing some discounts on a lot of them type calves. Wheat pasture prospects look very good in the hard red winter wheat regions of the country. Corn Belt farmers have plenty of feed. Demand remains very good on these feeder calves and yearlings. And they're looking at some prices in Bassett, Nebraska on Wednesday. They sold a near pot load of replacement heifers weighing 555 pounds that sold at $3.72 a pound. And in Phillips, South Dakota on Tuesday, they sold over 1,200 head of steer calves weighing 500 to 550 pounds. They averaged 531 pounds and sold with a weighted average price of $309.68. A lot of drama remains in the futures market this week on live cattle and feeder cattle futures, where we've still have some volatile swings. It just seems to be a calling card each week, especially over the last 3 weeks, which is becoming, seems like, quite routine. Last week, the fat cattle trade was fully steady, and that was a big positive when you looked at last week's meltdown in the stock market. Big losses there. It kind of spilled over into the live cattle and feeder cattle futures last week. And then here on Thursday afternoon in Kansas and Nebraska, well, they broke loose with live cattle prices trading $5 to $6 higher at $170 on some confirmed sales. So it looks like good old supply and demand still very valid at this time. So hopefully this market will carry over into the feeder cattle market next week and see if we can get some higher prices. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week and catch more markets at this website.